Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two cousins who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK,
And I'm Monica.
and full disclosure, we are filming this excessively early for when it is going to be put on the airwaves because it's my birthday, not today, tomorrow. And I fully, like any sane about to be 29-year-old, have 5 days worth of birthday party planned.
As you
As one does, when their birthday is also 4 weeks away from them moving out of the country and needing to say goodbye to all their friends. So I have 5 days of birthday party plans, which means no filming time. So we are quite early.
and also quite early with time because my only exciting thing that has happened between us filming 3 days ago, I am getting vaccinated for COVID. And I have to go to the doctors to get my notes and my physical and everything done before I go and get my thing done. So I am currently, I've been up since 6 a.m. It is now 7 a.m. and I have to go to my doctor's at 9. So this is going to be a really fun day. Can't wait to come home and sleep all day.
That is very exciting, but also a straight up lie about it being the only exciting thing that has happened to you since we filmed 3 days ago.
That is also very true.
Because Joel De La Fuente, man. Like I think our podcast should just be called We're in Love with Joel De La Fuente. Let's be real. Yeah. I live in Asia, in case anyone has not figured that out. Of course, I'm leaving soon, unfortunately. No. It's weird. I'm happy to be coming home. I'm very unhappy to be leaving. It's a very complicated situation. But I live in Asia, and I have for the last 3 years. So obviously the whole Asian American attacks that have been happening have been very difficult for me to stomach. So I took some time to say, fuck promoting the podcast. Like, let's just stand behind the AAPI community. Because, like, not only do I live in Asia, I have lots of friends who are Asian. I have a lot of friends who are Asian American. Like, it's just very upsetting. And obviously, like, it has been a really heavy weighing on Joel's heart. If you, like, follow him on Instagram or anything, and anything that he cares about, I care about because I love this man so much. Mm-hmm. So, made a post for the hashtag Stop Asian Hate, and he shared it on Twitter and told people to listen to our podcast.
So if you're here because of Sir Joel De La Fuente,
thank you.
Thank you. But I don't know if he blindly led you to the absolute shit show that has been this past year of mine and Mary Kate's podcast.
But honestly, if he did blindly tell people to listen to the podcast without having listened to it, good for him for being so supportive of fans and the things that they do. If he told people to listen to it because he has listened to it, that is a kind of validation that I didn't know I needed until I had it.
Yeah. He has been one of the people that David Paul Francis, one of the writers on the show, he's interacted with us a lot on social media, and he's also a very, very sweet guy.
Yeah, but I also shout out to Alex Hernandez, who plays Isaac / Chongo. He's been great, and Richard Gunn, who plays Ader, has been great. But Joel has been the one who consistently.
Anything we tag him in, he always likes it.
He always likes, he responds to DMs. He is just very active. And it's not just with us. I've noticed from his things that he's massively supportive of his castmates in things, in all of their projects. He is just so supportive of his community. He's so supportive of his wife. He is the epitome of a Taurus man in all of the best ways possible. He is a Taurus. But because of course we know that. But he is just
Yeah, I think that Joel De La Fuente being one of the, and it's honestly kind of funny for me. Like me and Mary Kay, I think we talked about it last week. Um, for me being on the side of when we were first watching this show of, I don't want to say anti-Price, but I just didn't trust him enough yet. Where Mary Kate was gung ho since like episode 1 when he was in there, and it's funny to see because like as the character has grown and he became such a, I think, a foundation in the series. And me and Mary Kate were just talking about this. I said the only thing that kind of sucked, and obviously we're going to get into the finale episode, but the one thing that I genuinely did realize, even from just season 2 alone, but the characters that we have been watching for the past 3 seasons, in the sense of where everything ended, were not the same characters that we started with. And I honestly can't say in a good way. I don't want to say in a bad way, but I just think that they're the essence of who they were as people. They were trying to drive this big character change with Roman that just didn't make sense, but it was like it had to make sense because that's the only way to justify what happened. And I think we broke away from who everyone truly is because I think we were focusing on the wrong people, especially this season.
I think there's something that I found out recently that really upsets me. I don't like retconning. I just don't. I'm the kind of person who gets really, really, really into like intense um theories about things. And I have this theory at the end of season 1 that Olivia's mysterious disappear baby, who was named Magdalena, was Peter's great grandma. I recently found out that she was. I was absolutely correct. The woman who was with Nikolai, who died when he was fighting the Nazis, was Magdalena. And then they completely pretended that they didn't write that and changed everything for season 3 to introduce Annie.
Yeah. And that is something that it was like they were trying to pick up pieces where, like, I was just telling Mary Kate at the end of season 1, that was what I haven't read the book, but I think that's how the book ends. There's
I
no, or maybe there's some other little bit of tie-ins for what happened in season 2, but
I
I,
honestly, even with season 2, I don't think they drifted from
no.
the character traits. Season 3, I think what happened was they found out that they were getting canceled and said, let's make this as big as we can, and bit off more than they could chew. Tried to put too much into one season. In, and also were a little bit lazy because I understand the Upir virus being Spivak's end goal and Olivia getting it. And I honestly, as much as I didn't really care for the zombie stuff, if they had tied it to Spivak a little more coherently, I wouldn't have hated it. What I
Mhm.
did hate was them retconning their own storyline to introduce a character that helped Roman find out that he wasn't alone and find other Upirs when they could have had Annie, some hot French chick who knows too much, shows up, blows Roman's mind. It even could have been somebody who knew Olivia from the past and had a vendetta.
Mhm.
Making it Olivia's daughter ruins previous plot lines, lessens the tie that Roman and Peter have to each other unnaturally for no reason, which has always been the most interesting part of the show, and in the end was pointless.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, the only part of the storyline that required her being, because like she could have had a heart to heart with Olivia, and then Roman found out that they knew each other and it got messed up. He still could have been mad and been like angry at her for lying and had that whole fight where they had weird incest sex and have it not be incest and just him be angry that she knew Olivia.
Mhm.
Literally the only thing that was necessary was
The end of the
Olivia going after her for a body when she couldn't get to Roman.
yeah.
Which,
And
since I'll be just straight up before we even get into it, I did not care for most of the finale.
yeah,
So I could have done without that.
yeah, a lot of the like there was the whole finale before we go into it, because in all honesty we could do Olivia's path that she's going on and Peter and Roman's path that they're going on, two separate
I
things. Oh, it was.
personally would like to do this chronologically
That's perfectly
instead
fine.
of storyline, just because um, I think everyone's a little more intertwined, or at least attempted to be. And also, I have a lot of timeline issues with
Yeah,
this.
that's very fair. But the only thing that's upsetting is that we started this whole show off with Roman and Peter at the forefront, our two most important characters, our two most lovable characters that we like me and Mary Kate love Peter and Roman.
For
And it
sure.
got to a point they have been nerfed so much this season, and they were even nerfed in the finale. Like their
The
storyline, like
only thing that made it watchable for me, literally, and I found myself actually thinking this in real life. I thought, thank God Landon and Bill are still best friends,
mhm,
because this can't be real.
yeah, because like it was like the end of something that like their whole dynamic even through the show in real life, it was just felt like they were just completely taken out, like who they were as people and who they made these characters. It was like that they were trying their absolute best to still have that shine through, but having such dramatic character changes in 2 episodes that just
Well,
wasn't going to
the thing
happen.
is, I truly do believe that Peter would never forgive Roman for killing Destiny, and that would be the end, because the only person Peter cares about more than Roman is Destiny. I believe that.
Mhm.
I don't believe that Roman would have killed Destiny. Like, that does not make sense to me.
Yeah. And I don't believe that Roman is a pathological serial killer. He killed one, was it a hooker or a prostitute? Like nothing against sex workers, but that was just what they were in the show. I think it was a hooker that he killed in an alley
Yeah.
last episode. So because he did that and killed Destiny, he is now supposedly this, according to Annie, this big serial killer who's just gonna kill everyone and everything.
Well, I mean, in Annie's point of view, she watched him kill 2 people while saying that he would never kill anybody. So, like, I get her being upset, for sure. But also, the first time that he ever killed someone,
Yeah, the first time I ever killed a person, he asked, "Do you have a family? I'm gonna send her a fuck ton of money so I can support her because you won't be around."
and then he hated himself. So he killed that one homeless person and felt super guilty about it. And then he never killed anyone again until that man attacked him and Annie, and he did it in self-defense. And
Mm.
also in blood, like, he had just, like, that's the thing. You can't expect him to be feeding on human blood and not be bad.
Especially when he's been trying so hard to wean his diet to the stuff that Price made.
Oh, lie. I lied. He definitely killed what's her fucking face? The Russian bitch. But again, she tried to kill him first.
Yeah. It's not like the only out of the blue nowhere death that he did was the hooker in the alley.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was after his whole life fell apart. So, like, I wasn't even mad about it.
Yeah, and I was like, I was sitting there thinking, like, I'm like, they're building him up to be this crazy, uncontrollable serial killer, and I'm like, and I think they tried to do that when he killed Destiny, but I think it was a lot of clouded judgment what caused that, but that's also just not in Roman's character for him to kill Destiny anyway. Like, they didn't show us any signs of him starting to be Like it was like they were
No,
trying.
they did. They did. They just didn't do it well enough. Like there's the
Yeah.
whole the him screaming at Shelly and like all these like little hints throughout the like season where they kept kind of saying things about like you're turning into your mom, everything you hate about Olivia, that's who you're becoming. They attempted to give us that story arc, but I just don't think it was strong enough. And I do truly think that is a case of there were too many stories in this season.
Yes, and sadly, this whole season, I felt like we were watching more about Olivia than anything to do with the boys.
Which could have been fine if it wasn't the final season. If there was a season 4 and season 3 was the demise of Olivia and that was one storyline and then Famke was off the show and then there was a season 4 that was a conclusion to the boys story, I wouldn't have even been mad. It was just that they tried to wrap everything up without wrapping anything up.
Yeah,
Like
it was just
what is the laziest way as a writer to fix a plot point? Kill the character.
hmm
And like no offense because some of the character I don't think all of the character deaths were useless.
yeah,
I don't think all of the character deaths were pointless and I don't think all of them were lazy per se. Like I don't think Annie's death was lazy. I think that was truthfully one of my favorite moments of the episode.
yeah,
I think that when you find out the show is canceled and you want to end it big and you do want to leave it in as unambiguous as possible, which we'll get to that. Um, I think the laziest way to do that is take your main characters and just kill them all. And I think that's
yeah,
what happened.
absolutely. Um, so enough ranting about
On
it.
that note, let's really get into it. We are talking about Hemlock Grove, Season 3, Episode 10, the final episode ever. And I'm gonna be really, really honest. I have known the title of this episode since we literally started filming this podcast. And right in this moment when I picked up my notebook, did I figure out why it was called that.
I still don't know why it's called what it is.
So this episode is called Brian's Song. And I
Oh, wait.
thought, for the last 8 months, who the fuck is Brian? And why does he get a swan song? Brian's the author of the goddamn book.
Yeah, I when
And
you
a
were talking.
swan song is when you say goodbye. So
Mhm.
Brian's song, yeah. It took me 8 months to figure that out. So like
Mary Kate, we were on the same wavelength. Literally, we just picked up on that at the same time. You were like, "Oh, I just thought about why the episode is," and I said Brian's song in my head, and I was like, "Oh wait,
yeah.
that makes."
Yeah. No. Literally I was like, can't wait to explain why I don't get this episode type. Oh.
At least we corrected ourselves before we made a fool of ourselves, but still acknowledged that we were gonna make a fool of ourselves.
Yeah. It was rated 6.5 stars, which is the lowest rated episode of the entire series,
Understandable.
which I would have to agree with.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because Price wasn't in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was directed by Russell Lee Fine, who is not a new director. And it was written by Charles H. Egley, Peter Blake, and Lorna Clark Osusani. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Charles Egley and Peter Blake have written on the show before and are also the executive producers of this season. Lorna does not have a ton of credits and also has like fucking absolutely no bio on the internet. But she was the writer's assistant for all of this season and just got promoted for the last episode. So probably while doing producer duties, the two men did not have as much time as needed, and so their assistant helped with enough to get herself an actual writing credit.
That's good though.
which is great. Good for her. She did write a book or two, I think. I saw that. If you know who she is, feel free to let us know because I literally could not find anything on the internet.
Hmm.
Um, the blurb says Blinsky tends to Roman's wounds at the White Tower. After leaving Nadia with Shelley, Annie confronts Olivia about her father's death. I would call that the shittiest blurb I've ever read.
Yeah. There are also issues I have with we'll get to it when we get to it. But I want to know when it came to Shelly and the baby, how to get from one thing to another thing because she knew nothing that was happening. None. She just was like, yeah, she said she was gonna come back, but you know what? Never mind. She might now. What up?
I have a lot of questions. A lot of questions about this episode.
It's like they kind of just forgot. They said, "Can you watch her for an hour?" And we're just like, "Yeah, you know what? Never mind."
My first note about this episode says, and I quote, quite honestly, fuck this show. And this is something that I would love to ask Mr. De La Fuente because I cannot find the motivation. I can't. So our cold open begins with Price's funeral. And Shelley is giving a little email note that she's sending up to the Cloud eulogy to Price. And in this little eulogy, she says, "We took the best of everything because that's what you were." So they used that line to justify a hodgepodge funeral. They had bagpipers, which I think was supposed to make it not racist.
See, I'm just gonna stay quiet because I know your feelings on this.
Joel De La Fuente is an Asian American of Filipino descent. Price was never, it was never discussed what his ethnicity was, but I would, because I am not a stereotyping asshole, would assume that when not told otherwise, the race of the character would match with the race of the actor. I mean, that might just be because I'm not a fucking terrible person because let's get into the fact that Hollywood likes to just say this person is Vietnamese and this person is this and they're all Chinese or they're all Korean and we don't give a fuck about Asian ethnicities because every Asian looks the same, which is absolute and utter bullshit. And it is one of the absolute most disgusting things that happens in Hollywood. And I could talk about Asian stereotyping for the rest of my life, but I will not. I will just talk about this one incident. Um, so without the backstory of what Johan's actual ethnicity is, I would respectfully consider him to be Filipino.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know about every person in the Philippines, obviously. I don't know about every indigenous religion in the Philippines. To be honest, the Philippines is a culture that I know less about than some of the other mainland Southeast Asian cultures. Um, but what I do know is that all of my friends who are Filipino, and by that I mean actually born in the Philippines, not just Filipino Americans, which I do have, I mean, your brother's half brother is Filipino. Like we
Yeah.
know Filipino Americans. Like, but everyone that I know who is of Filipino descent is Catholic
Mhm.
because the Spanish influence and then the American influence, past post Spanish influence, brought a lot of Western religion. I obviously know that there are Eastern religions that existed in the Philippines prior to colonialism, and I understand that not every Filipino is Catholic. I could not tell you what Joel de la Fuente's religion, or if he has a religion, is. And I understand that that doesn't look Asian.
Mhm.
And they tried to justify it with this whole we brought in the best of everything because like I said there was a fucking bagpiper for no reason.
Mhm.
There were Hindi dancers, there was Tibetan monks, there were Hindu statues, there was Theravada Buddhist statues, which is Thai Buddhist statues, there were um, the more Chinese sect of Buddhist statues. There were lotus flowers, which that's probably the least offensive. Um, and obviously, I do not speak for all Asian people. I surely do not speak for all Asian American people. I don't know who was consulted. I don't know if Joel had a thought on this. I don't know if the intention was to genuinely be inclusive. But there wasn't any detail. This character has truthfully been not given good enough writing in his backstory, um, which I feel very strongly about because I think that he is the best character with the most complicated non supernatural history. Um,
Mhm.
and to me, it felt like a fucking cop out. It felt like instead of actually knowing anything about this character, we're just gonna put every fucking Asian iconography we can in one place and pretend it's because inclusion.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I just talked about that for a solid 8 minutes. So I'm very, very sorry. But
Oh, I don't
I
blame
just
you.
I just don't I think it's because the Asian representation in media in America is so one dimensional. And having lived here and met people and experienced these cultures myself, it is burning in me to just never let them be seen so badly. Like I hate it so much.
Mhm.
Like I today with my students, they had a big national test. So we after their test, I didn't want to make them learn because they had a 3 hour exam. Like I'm not gonna do that to them. They're 8. So we watched Raya and the Last Dragon in class. And to see those kids' faces when they heard Thai music and saw Thai looking people and saw fruit that they knew what it was and saw landscape that looked like their villages in a Disney movie. I'm sorry, I have literally goosebumps right now. To see them feel seen was so powerful. And then to know that I then had to go home and talk about the fact that this is the worst thing I've ever seen. Like I I just get really, really passionate about people being these because these cultures are beautiful.
Yeah. And I think that, being well versed and understanding that, grouping one set of people just because they all look the same,
And
all
they
come from.
don't all look the same. Like that's oh, I have one final complaint, but kind of it moves away. My next complaint about Price's funeral is when the fuck did it happen?
Yeah, it kind of just was.
Because So the next scene after the credits, which my note about the credits is that the theme song is the only thing I'll miss.
Yeah.
After the credits, Roman gets to the White Tower and he's freaking out because, he's got a bullet in him and he's dying. And he's like, I need to see Price. I need to see Price. And Blinsky's all upset and everything. And he's like, Price is dead. So what you're telling me is that when they were both hit on the same night, it took less time to plan a funeral that involved Tibetan monks and Indian dancers in rural Pennsylvania than it did for him to get to the White Tower to get this bullet removed.
In all fairness, which it doesn't make sense because at the end we see Shelley in the White Tower sending this email out. But here's my guess on how it was supposed to be. I think we were hearing what Shelley was messaging after she found out that Price died, but the eulogy took place after she went with Ador and she's remembering on what she wrote.
No. We see her typing the email that she talks about the funeral before she goes back to the Poot. We watched her type this email. No, but the email is saying she's typing an email, and in the email she's talking about how beautiful the funeral was.
That is true. Which in theory doesn't make sense because also this all happened at the same night and the funeral took place during the day.
Yeah. So either Roman literally chilled for a solid 24 hours with a bullet in him before going to get help, which we all know he would never do, or the funeral was a dream and didn't happen.
I'm here is where I think it could be.
I would love to hear you try to make sense of this. Make it make sense.
One, either what Shelley is typing is what she's hoping that Price's funeral will be, so that she can, because if she's saying that she's putting this in the cloud and that's where he says that he is, she's typing this out and because she says that she hopes that it gets to him, and like almost like a reassurance of letting him know that everything was beautiful type of deal. And it didn't actually happen yet, but the footage that we see is what happens afterwards with Price, so that we can get some closure on his character. It could be, that's where I'm leaning, that it is more of, or something that Shelley is envisioning of what it could be, and that she's just stating what it is.
I just think it was lazy, and they wanted to close up the storyline of Price at the beginning of the episode, and it didn't make sense to put it anywhere else. So they just put it there as the cold open, even though it literally could not have happened then.
Yeah.
So
that's understandable. It probably does fall on laziness, but for the sake of, the rest of this episode kind of pisses me off. I have to give myself.
I just call bullshit. Like I just call bullshit. That's all. Like I don't even, my problem is I don't even hate every individual storyline. I like some more than others. But that's not even my issue. It's just that this episode doesn't work.
No, as a finale, it doesn't, besides like all the death and carnage that's a part of it. But
right.
It's still like lacking something.
Yeah. Also, that isn't the first scene after yes, it is. Maybe.
Yes, it is it is because it's after where he's taking care of Peter.
Yeah, no. I'm trying to figure out when the first Olivia scene is because I don't remember.
Me neither.
So, I think this is because I don't think I got lazy with my notes until later.
Okay.
Yeah, because then my next note, after this scene, Shelley goes to the Poot She's talking to one of her friends. Basically, the scene was absolutely pointless, uh, except that it was cute, and he called her Shell Bell, and that made me happy.
Yeah.
But basically, the only thing that you gain from this scene is that Adar hasn't contacted anybody. Great, fantastic.
Hmm. Like, why are we surprised that he hasn't contacted everyone? He kind
Right,
of
like I wasn't questioning that.
like he looked like he wanted the Rooster to take a fall for him, so without even them knowing that that's what they were doing. So
Yeah. So,
great
I
character.
mean, the thing is, it was fine. It was well written. Shelley had closure. Shelley has a friend. It was sweet. Their conversation was fine. It just the pacing of this episode was so off. Like, why did we need that?
Yeah. Like we could have completely done without that scene and still gotten the same outcome.
Yeah. My next note says barrier problems. Cool. Do you even know where Nadia is? Because we see Peter's body in the woods, and Roman is burying it again because that's all he does is he just kills people and then buries their bodies in the woods apparently. But my question is, okay, step 1. You killed this guy in an alley. Then you waited 24 hours to go to the hospital. Then you get healed at the hospital. Then where was his body the whole time that was happening?
Yeah.
Now you're putting it in the woods. Also, where's your daughter? Who the last time you saw her, she was with this man that you then murdered.
Yeah. But in a later scene, I think it doesn't show context that he knew that Nadia was with
Well,
Peter.
no, in a later scene, we find out that he didn't really know, but also, your daughter was just kidnapped for literally like a year. Why is that not the immediate only thing you're thinking about? And after
Um,
the way he acted about getting her back and how much he was worried about her, the fact that he just was like, going on a bender, don't care where my daughter is, doesn't make sense.
yeah.
Um, my next note says, ooh, rough. So maybe this is where the first Olivia. Oh yes, this must be the first Olivia scene because the rough was about her face. Yeah. So Olivia, you know, talking to Chongo as she does. Again, pretty fucking useless scene, except that she is talking about how great she looks, and then she looks in
Threw
the
a rock.
mirror.
Well, no, she didn't look into it. She threw the rock at the mirror, and she doesn't see herself, but we see what her
Well,
actual.
here's the thing. She obviously sees herself and punches the mirror or throws something at it because we have learned that Chango cannot physically interact with things.
Yeah.
And the mirror, and it shows the mirror shattering. So she did it. Um but we get just a glimpse of her face. And it looks gross. My problem is we then I don't know. I just think it would have been made so we don't see her looking gross again until her end. I think it would have been way cooler if there would have been continuous like reflection shots where we got to see what she actually looked like to other people.
Hmm. Instead of waiting until the very last episode, or because I'm sitting here this whole time going, "Wow, this disease is actually kind of being nice to Olivia for how far gone she is. There has to be something more to this."
Right.
And
Oh, but also in this scene, we see that her hallucinations have now gone beyond just talking to someone who's not really there. She just thinks she is in other places, doing other things.
Yeah.
Which, I'll be honest, I did not care for.
They were way too choppy. It made it way more confusing.
I
And
understand the point of it, but I didn't find it as interesting as I would have to see her deterioration from someone else's point of view.
yes, and I think that if they still did that at the end, like when she's going through her demise, and then she did that as like the last little light bulb going off of who she really is,
Yeah.
that would have been fine.
Well,
But
because
the
in other episodes, we have had moments where she's talking to Chongo, but we can see that he's not actually there. Like, obviously, we can see him, but we have had like moments where they show that she's losing her mind and people are staring at her like she's a crazy person.
Mhm.
So, seeing her having these like hallucinations with her skin all fucked up and her thinking that she's on stage from someone else would have been way more interesting.
Yeah.
They only had one moment where they even kind of did that. And it was at the end of the next Olivia scene.
Hmm.
So, I don't know. Um, my next note says, what the fuck? Which I think is about Peter and Destiny scene.
Yeah.
Which is not really a bad what the fuck. It was just a what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah.
Um yeah, so Peter's dead. And then all of a sudden he's floating in Destiny's living room with a weird fire torch. And she's like, you're almost dead. I'm not supposed to be talking to you till you're all the way dead, but like, get the fuck out of that hole and take vengeance.
And then it shows Peter in the grave waking up, and it looks like he's digging, but he's not the one digging. All of his wolf pack buddies came and dug him out and pulled
Yeah,
him
all
out
the
of the.
wolves dug him out, and then he's just like in pain but fine. And my next note says, not really how I saw that happening.
Yeah. I was like,
So
okay.
he was just he got stabbed in the stomach and bit on the neck and then buried alive. And then he's just like kind of sore.
Yeah, like they make it look like he was just, like he had like a sore shoulder from like arm day or some shit
Right,
at the
like
gym.
he got stabbed in the same place that Price did, and Price is dead.
Yeah.
So again, continuity is questionable.
Because as far as I know, wolves don't have regeneration like the Upirs
I
do.
mean, like, but the thing is, obviously, the werewolves have to have some kind of regeneration abilities because they basically like strip themselves of skin and limbs every once a, and it was the full moon,
Yeah.
so I guess
Yeah.
they've
Well,
also been very, very wishy-washy on what Peter's powers are for the whole series. Like, that's the one thing that they've never really been clear on is what he's actually capable of.
yeah.
Like he's had all these weird psychic moments, and then there's the whole like it's actually just um not I don't even know what I was saying. Sorry. I just got a text message and it threw me off. Um yeah.
Now, after this scene, we go to Annie, right?
Um I don't know. I don't know. Uh-oh. Let me pull up a plot synopsis because clearly I have no idea what's going on.
Okay.
Then Roman goes home from having buried Peter in the woods, and turns out Olivia is sneaky in the house in the dark. And
Mary Kate, real quick. This scene alone would have been a great scene to showcase what Olivia really was looking like because it looked like we were
yes,
looking at her from Roman's point of view and not from her.
yes, yes, no, for sure. Because like he can tell that she's obviously messed up. She's at the point where she can't look at light. He's shining a flashlight on her face, and it's like super great. And he is saying some really, really harsh stuff. Um,
Mhm.
and like I don't really blame him, but he's like being really, really harsh. And then she spins out again into delusional, and we see her getting thrown off the stage at the theater, but really it's Roman throwing her out of the house. And like that moment where like we could see what was actually happening versus what she was seeing was like I wanted more of that.
Yeah. Like if they're gonna make these weird flash intense scenes like throughout the whole episode that could have been used for other scenes that could have made more sense and we could have gotten more time with other characters. I look at that as like a waste of screen time instead of just having it be a finale thing if they weren't going to utilize it properly like they did in that one scene. So I just it's a back and forth with it and like Roman also knew that Olivia was going to be there. Like he came in the house was silent and dark and quiet,
Yeah,
and we just see a hand come out of the doorway as he's heading upstairs, and he's like, "Bro, you really think that I didn't expect you to come in? I can smell the rot off of you. Like you smell like death."
yeah. And I don't
And
remember everything he said, but like it was rough.
he was like, "No, like I don't need you in my life anymore," because she's trying to like sympathize with him, saying, "Listen, like I just you need to help me get to Annie." And like for a second, I thought that he was going to
Yeah,
like it because he also wants to kill Annie for like tipping him off about Peter. And but he like didn't cave. He was like, "Well, it sucks to be you. You can die and rot in hell, you dumb bitch." And I was like, "Okay."
yeah. My next note says I hate this show. Um, because after he kicks his mom out of his house, he uses Peter's phone to text Annie, and he tries to go meet her. Then she knows it's him and doesn't, and then she goes back to where she's staying, which is with one of Peter's cousins or something, and Peter's just chilling there on the couch, and
Apparently bandaged himself up and around the abdomen
yeah,
and was just like, "Yeah, I got this."
and she's like, "Don't turn on the full moon. Blah blah blah. You're gonna become a Vargo." I know all of this information that I never showed any sign of knowing ever before.
Mhm.
Um, and Peter's like, "Yeah, no, I promise I won't. Here's all the money that I got from when I got Andreas killed, but I don't want to talk about it. So you and the baby take the money, and I'll disappear and heal
It's
myself."
it's so out of character
No, like
for
him with like not wanting the money for himself and not wanting to think about Andreas, that was fine. But him
yeah,
just being no, and also honestly him being like, "Here, take care of the baby and I'll just wait a month." It wasn't really out of character because it was 100% obvious he was lying.
yeah. But
So,
I mean, out of character in the sense where I feel like he would have had more. He wouldn't have wanted to 100% leave the baby with just Annie when literally not even 24 hours ago he wasn't trusting a damn word that she said. Granted, she showed her
yeah,
trust. But
but I mean other than that, but like I don't know. It
once again, I don't know how to judge the characters because I don't know what to believe because it's back and forth wishy washy this past whole season. I don't
yeah.
know they really are in the end of this episode. I'm like, that doesn't seem right. But at the same time, because of other things, it does kind of seem right. But still, in the grander scheme, it doesn't seem right.
Yeah, my next note says Roman has lost his mind. Which I'm not 100% sure why I thought Roman lost his mind.
I think
Oh, yeah, there was just a scene where Roman was walking around his house and there was just like things happening that he didn't understand and he was just like staring at empty cups and stuff.
existential crisis. It wouldn't be an
Right.
episode of Grove if he wasn't experiencing that.
So then we get a
Um,
scene with Roman and Peter on the phone talking about how they're going to kill each other. And I didn't actually hate the scene. It
no,
was fine.
it felt like they were both a very like they both knew what was coming. Like Peter gave him a choice, and he was just like, no, because Roman is stuck in his ways with his pride and his ego, and he's
Yeah,
become
this was when Peter was like, everything you hate about Olivia is what you've become. And like Roman was insulting Peter's family and Peter was insulting Roman's family. And it wasn't really out of character for them to act like little bitches. Um,
Also, another thing I want to add about this scene, Roman is like, you can't let me not have Nadia. Like, she can't be without a father. And she's like, that's not, he was like, no, like, that's not your daughter. That's Letha's. So, like, he still also doesn't know. And I thought Roman was going to tell him.
I thought
And
Roman was going to tell him too. And he kind of did without saying it. Like he just kept calling her his daughter. And it was just like, awkward.
yep.
Then we go to the rooster poop where Annie has come to drop Nadia off with Shelly. And she's like, this is your niece. And Shelly's like, oh, I didn't know you had a kid. And Annie doesn't correct her.
Yeah. And also another thing, she says, "Can you watch her? She just needs to be watched for an hour." That's all that Annie says. So when we go back to what's going on with Shelly later, isn't gonna make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know. This is when my notes stop making sense. My note says best quote of the show goes to Shelly. What did Shelly say? I don't know.
Me
No
neither.
idea. Absolutely no idea. And I don't know if it is in this scene or the next scene. Oh, nope, it's not for a while. Okay, because my next note doesn't come again for much later. So Shelly drops the baby off. Or Shelly has the baby now. She doesn't know how to use a baby. It's weird. Um, then we have a scene where Roman is explaining to the security that they need to find Annie and kill her and get his baby back. But he lies and says that the baby is the prototype that Price made.
Yes. And then he says that Annie is some like secret spy woman who's like trained to kill. He is like, kill this woman, bring back the baby. And then the one girl was like, well, we don't really, do this. He's like, you used to supervise under Price. Now you're mine. So this is what you're doing now.
He's like, I know exactly who you are and where Price got you from, so don't pretend you're building security.
Yeah.
Then Annie goes to
Where does Annie go after
Olivia.
That's right.
And she is like, I know the truth. You killed my father. And Olivia's like, I don't give a fuck. And
he was gonna leave anyway.
now my problem is that I don't know when Olivia says this. If she says this now. when she's talking to Isaac, or later when she's talking to Blinsky. So I'm just going to say it now because I don't think it really matters. But she says that Annie is the perfect choice for her to take her body because Annie doesn't want to be alive anymore anyway, and she can just go to Six Flags over Jesus.
She was saying that to Blinsky, and that's honestly one of the funniest
And
freaking lines.
that killed me. I could not. I was like, yes. Yeah, okay, so she doesn't say this yet. But so basically, so Olivia munches on Annie to sedate her enough to carry her to
The White Tower.
White Tower, where she's going to use her body. Then we go back to the Poot, and Ador has reappeared. And he's
which, mind you, throughout this scene, he is really trying to get Shelly to understand where he's coming from. And that's fine. Fair. Shoot your shot, bro. But for Shelly, poor innocent Shelly, it's just like, yeah, you know, I forgive you, Home Slice. Help me change this baby's diaper.
Except for that, no, because she does say the best. This is when I have Shelly has the best quote of the whole show. She said, "For a man who knows a lot about a lot, you sure know fucking nothing."
Yeah.
Not exactly like that, but she's basically like, you know everything about everything, but also you know absolutely nothing.
Yes.
And he's like, you know what? You is correct.
But I do know how to
And
change a
he's
paper
like,
tape.
he's like trying to apologize, and she's like, "Are you sure you can apologize to me, or do I need to go get a dozen more people since you're so good at telling everyone everything except for the people you actually care about?" She like calls him out.
That is very fair. She did call him out, which power to you, Shelly.
Yes. The thing is, the way she handles him this episode, I love.
Is not
Like, it makes me actually like their relationship, except for all the things that I don't like about their relationship, because she doesn't just like let him walk all over her. She calls him out. She makes him apologize and makes him be responsible and makes him like stand up. And she's like, "No, I'm not gonna take this." So then we go to the White Tower. Olivia kills a security guard for no effing reason because it's Olivia. And then that's when she finds out Price is dead, and she's like, "That's fine. I don't really care that Price is dead. Blinsky can do it." Blinsky's like, in fact, I can't. So then she threatens his children, because of course she does. Yeah. Then, oh, I forgot a scene where Roman goes back to the old house, and says, "You know what I love about this place? It's mine." That doesn't make any sense. Like, that was just to put him at the old house for what happens next. Literally makes no sense. My next note says, what? Because Peter has a bowl of water and he's digging a hole in the woods, which turns out to be at Destiny's grave. That makes sense later. Did not make sense in that moment. Oh, somewhere we also missed the scene where Roman goes home and finds out that Nadia's not at home and loses his shit.
Yeah.
Again, this episode didn't, like, it was very, very all over the place. And none of it mattered.
Yeah, like we've been able to talk about this whole episode with forgetting those scenes, and it hasn't really
story. Yeah, so then we're back at the White Tower. Olivia is being a bitch, like usual, talking her nonsense, talking whatever, having weird dream fantasies. And Blinsky's like, "I'm gonna untie you. And we're both gonna run and get in the little chamber, and then I'll call the police." And he manages to free
Annie.
Annie, but not free himself. Then Annie decides that she would rather be dead than help Olivia, and she sets herself on fire.
She's in the little like rat like chamber room that Price was in beforehand.
The box.
And the box, and starts like turning on all the gas that's in there, lets it leak for a minute, strikes a match, and then whew, flames.
No, she doesn't even strike a match. She sticks a scalpel in an electrical socket.
That's right. She sticks a scalpel in the electrical socket, and then she's like, whatever. And like Olivia's losing her shit because she's now watching her only chance of living burn.
Yeah. And I will say, this was one of the 3 moments that I liked. It was very Joan of Arc. It was beautiful. It was visually well done, but also, despite the fact that I don't think I like Annie's character, it's exactly what Annie's character would do.
Yeah.
Because before she did it, she said a prayer for Olivia and then killed herself. Like, very Joan of Arc. I'm about it. So then, Olivia has one last moment of believing she's on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the first time, we really see what's actually happening when she's on stage.
Which this scene is where I had my issue.
Yes.
Because when we saw the little glimpse of her walking by in the mirror, that was practical, face paint, stuff like that. Like body paints, special effects, do it. Now, for whatever reason, they felt, you know what, we're just going to CGI her whole body, essentially. She looked like something out of like a really well-made animation studio. She didn't look like a person, though. And not in the sense, because obviously she's in a point where she does not look human anymore. But
right.
They could have changed. They could have made it more like grotesque looking practically, because Annie's literally laying in her arms, and it looks like the effects are practical. Like, and even if they are animated,
I don't think that was an actual human body, but I think it was actually a charred like dummy or something.
And I was like, that looks real. And then I'm like, in Olivia's, who's such an easier process to make look like that, they were like, nah, CG it. And also, she starts to chew on her arm, and when I first, like, because I had already known that she's going to start chewing herself because she's at the self-cannibalism stage.
Yeah.
But it's not like the rat in the video where it just, like, completely devoured itself and then exploded. She just took a nibble out of her arm. It looked like she was peeling back a sunburn and then died. It wasn't gross. And also the bite mark that she did.
And the thing is, like, obviously I was grateful that it wasn't super gross, but at the same time, this show has been excessively gory for no reason before, and they couldn't do that.
Well, also, they didn't use practical blood for her doing that either. It was a CGI piece of blood. Like, everything about her was artificial, and I hated that because that's stuff that they could have done practically, and it would have looked so good and gross. And it just also doesn't make sense for where her disease was, that she only took one little nibble out of herself. She didn't even eat it. She just peeled off the layer of her skin and then died.
Yeah.
Like, that's how rats reacted, so why is she any different?
So stupid.
Yeah.
Then
Olivia's dead now.
She's dead. So now we go to the next big battle. And Peter shows up at the house to attack Roman. And they're fighting. Well, Peter just immediately transforms into a wolf. And he's all white, so we know there's no more Peter. He's Vargulf now. Great. And he attacks Roman. And Roman still kind of has the upper hand. He's still stronger than Peter. But then weird voodoo magic Destiny walks in the back room and, like, distracts Roman, so Peter throws him out a window.
And apparently paralyzed him because he couldn't move.
He was like, I can't move my body. And then Roman gives the most beautiful speech about how
Now,
without, yeah,
real quick before you go into this, the timestamp for where this scene happens, there's only 5 minutes left of the episode, and this whole scene is a duration of maybe a minute and a half. And I was so pissed that I understood that they were going to wait to the very end to do it, but I thought it would be more climactic because we knew it was coming since the beginning of the episode, and obviously even beforehand.
yeah.
That it was just a minute and a half that we got to this scene.
But then Roman actually does give my second moment that I actually enjoyed. Now, also, mind you, we're in the last 10 minutes of the episode before I found moments that I enjoyed. So,
Yeah.
He gives a speech about how they've both ruined each other. It's not just him. He's like, Peter, look at you. You're not even you anymore. Like you're gonna have to live with yourself like this. And what are you gonna do? Just keep killing people. That doesn't make you any better than me. It's just over. Everything's over. Just do it. Just kill me now. And it was really heartbreaking and beautiful and like real. But what wasn't real was the next part of the scene where they CGI'd the wolf ripping or chopping down on Roman's neck and then ripping his heart out.
Which, it was bad, but I could give a slide to that because of the fact that it is a CGI'd wolf doing this to an actor. So I can give it a slide, but they could have done better with the animation.
I get it. It was just that the scene of Roman laying there crying was so raw, and then it was immediately followed by the most cartoonish CGI I've seen so far.
Yeah. And that's understandable.
Like Spivak looked better than this scene.
Yeah. And the other thing about this is that, like, Roman does bring up a really good point. It's like they killed one villain to make another, essentially, because
he's like, you killed me, but what did it cost you?
Like, Peter, that's not Peter in there anymore. Like, he's a wolf. He's forever a wolf now. And
actually, I do have some beautiful things to say about that coming up. Because, So anyway, the next scene after this death, and then it just ends like that and cuts to the next scene. We get nothing from it. Is Ada and Shelley. Well, no. It's Ada and Shelley driving out of town, but they're listening to the radio. And on the radio is our good friend Vlad talking about how it doesn't make sense to blame this on vampirism or lycanthropy when clearly it's aliens. Because of course Vlad would think that.
Of course he would.
Character with the most consistency, Vlad. But so they're driving off into the sunset. They have the baby. They have the money. Everything's beautiful. Happy ending for somebody.
Now, this very last second.
No. We're not there yet. They're driving off into the sunset. And as they're driving off, they're going to go to Montana because they can see all of the sky, and they're going to take the sky, and it's going to be beautiful. And as they start to leave Hemlock Grove, Shelley sees something, and she says, wait. And then she says, never mind, because she saw a wolf at the edge of the road. Now, this was the best moment of the entire episode, because I'm going to get real fucking literary right now. In the season 1 finale, when Peter is fleeing Hemlock Grove because he can't take it anymore, he drives out of town, and the last thing he sees before he leaves the town is Shelley, but not as monster Shelley, as her real soul, who she is on the inside, the beautiful dream world Shelley. Then, in the season 3 finale, the series finale, Shelley drives out of Hemlock Grove, the only one left alive with a happy ending, to get rid of all the mess. And instead of seeing Peter as Peter, she sees him as the wolf, because Peter's not there anymore. Because if there was any hope of humanity left in Peter, Shelley would have seen Peter the way he saw Shelley. but she didn't.
Yeah.
She saw the wolf, and that's how you know he will never come back.
See, that's so beautiful, but here's my issue with it. I don't think the writers are that smart to put that context.
Shut up. It was beautiful, and I saw it, and I saw it, and I understood it, and it spoke to me.
Honestly, I give you that. I will let that happen because that honestly is a really nice way to look at
Because,
that.
and also this is why I made literally this moment and me explaining those two parallels is the entire reason I wanted to make this podcast. To talk about shit like that.
Yeah, and it just sucks that we picked a show that only had made it happen once. But I think that is a very beautiful way to look at the scene.
And
And
you know, if that had just been the ending, if they had just ended it on the now leaving Hemlock Grove sign, I would have honestly been like,
no. Here's the thing. This piece of shit is what made me call Mary Kate after watching this and be like, watch this fucking show and hate it.
Which is also why I watched it 2 days ago and had to keep looking up the plot because I didn't remember it. Because usually I watch it like 5 hours before we record, not 5 days.
Same. And I was like, yeah, no, I want to watch it now because I want to get it out of the way. And so they pan it on the sign, and then they go down to the little ravine that's going through Hemlock Grove.
It's not a ravine. It's literally sewer water.
This sewer water in Hemlock Grove. And I was watching it with my boyfriend, and I was like, I swear to God.
Oh no! As soon as I saw the water, I knew what they were gonna do. I was like,
I swear to God, if they're gonna do what I think they're gonna do, everything just lost its credibility right in this moment. And what do you know? A little baby Spivak stingray bitch just goes mee and then pops into the water, and that's the end of the show.
No. If this was a season finale. Well, first of all, of course it couldn't have been a season finale. They killed literally everyone. But if that had been a season finale and we were getting a season 4, great cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all were canceled. You did that for what reason?
Like they went into doing season 3 that was going to be their last season.
It was canceled. The season 3 was made with the conditions that it was the final season. And
then they were like, you know what? For shits and giggles. And to all the people out there that want a season 4 just because of that, you're stupid. There is zero context for.
And here's the thing. Not only was it insulting to make a cliffhanger like that when you knew you weren't ever coming back, and you killed all of the interesting characters. It was insulting that you wasted my time and put the major story arc of season 2 into exactly 1.5 episodes of the season, had everything be a jumbled hot mess, threw in 8 additional storylines for no reason, lazily killed off every character that we loved, and then decided to bring back the season 2 cliffhanger as the season 3 cliffhanger?
Yeah, that literally sums it up perfectly. Like, this whole season, we were getting led into it with the sense of, okay, we're left with Spivak being a weird alien creature. Cool. Can't wait to see where this goes for season 3. And we got an episode and a half, and Spivak's demise being the most dumbass bullshit I've ever heard. Like, he's the Oopier boogeyman, but apparently the people he's trying to kill can literally kill him without any extra additive force. They can just bite him, and while he has to make a population in a virus to kill Oopiers. Like, it seems like the Oopiers should be the boogeyman for him, which doesn't make sense. Make sense.
That was the episode. Next week we will have Courtney with us to discuss why. Monica, who would you like to punch? I mean, there's not many people left alive to punch, but
I think I only have one person that I really want to punch. The writers of the episode. No,
if I had to pick a character, I think I would pick Peter.
I would. I don't know. I honestly.
No, I think I would pick Peter because he knows what being a Vargolf means. He knows the damage that it causes. He knows how bad it is, and he knows what that would do to whatever people left on this planet he cares about. But he is so blind with rage that he loses his humanity for no reason.
Okay. That's completely understandable.
I get that he was worried that Roman would kill more people. I get it. But after what the Vargolf did in season 1, and the what you know of Argolf is capable of, you would rather, like Roman said, you'd rather become a monster to stop one. That does not make you any better.
Yeah.
So that's why I would like to punch him.
Honestly, no, that makes sense. And I will agree with you on that because I honestly don't know who else I would punch. And saving grace, Shelly.
For me, it's going to be a weird one. It's going to be Blinsky.
I was going to say Blinsky because I was like kind of trying out
watching him
there.
cry over Price being dead was so sad. Oh, you just messed your hair up real bad.
I did.
Got a huge bubble in it. Watching him cry over Price was really sad, and also like he stood up to Olivia and let Annie go, even though he knew it could mean death. So,
And that's how you know that. And that's the one thing that I think that Blinsky did that Price could almost never do was be like, fuck you, Olivia, because she also really didn't have much.
She didn't have much leverage, but the other thing is Price didn't have a family. The only thing Price could protect was himself. And no matter how selfish she was, that's never as much a motivation as your children.
Yeah.
So.
That is true.
Well, that was that episode.
And if we can leave you with anything from the show, it's I think like it's something to watch if you're just bored or if you're
Yeah, I mean, and we'll talk more about this next week. I don't want to get too philosophical about it because that's what next week's for.
Yeah. But
But
that was
don't forget to send us nominations and whatnot for the DNA awards. Yeah.
All right, I am gonna go get ready. I gotta go to the doctor's and be
I need
an
to
adult.
eat dinner.
You have fun with that. And you're lucky you're going to bed early.
Well, I mean, by the time I eat, it'll still be my normal bedtime.
You're not going to bed at an
late.
insane.
I'm not going to bed late.
Like,
well, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EMKAY_superstar. And you can follow the podcast at Death and Aliens, no spaces, all one word.
And if you want to follow me on Instagram, you can follow me at monica.lynn_ and on Twitter at mon_lynn_. And with that, we'll see you guys next week for our final thoughts on season 3 of Hemlock Grove.
Woo-woo.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.